Hi guys, so it is a Tuesday morning, right? And yesterday I just came back from Singapore with my E39 here. Okay, so we drove down last Thursday, okay, in the afternoon, and yeah, reached Singapore without incident. Came back yesterday also without incident. Okay, but this car almost did not make it for that trip. Okay, what happened was, because to flashback a week earlier, all right, I had planned to send this car in for a regular service already ahead of the long journey, right? So at that time, okay, I knew I was dealing with a minor oil leak that has been going on for some months now, okay, but I knew the source of that oil leak. At that time, Shad has pinpointed the source of the oil leak to be the oil level sensor. So the engine was, oil was dripping through that sensor, okay, and for the few months I was keeping my eye on the oil level, and I also kept a spare can of engine oil in the boot. So the moment the engine oil level hits minimum, I topped up 1 liter of engine oil and I continued to monitor, and as it went down, yeah, that was when I decided time to go and service one shot, change the oil, all right, to a new change to a new engine oil. And now the engine is running on Chemlube. Yeah, so far all right, but still it needs a few more it needs a few more kilometers before I can really tell you what how has that oil been, you know, affecting my car's performance from then on. But still, just on that front, just to let you know, this car is being lubricated on Chemlube now. Stay tuned for more updates on how that works out. Okay, so got the oil changed, got a new oil level sensor in there, solved that problem. Now, just the day before I sent the car in, okay, it so happened that there was also a warning light telling me that my coolant level was running low. So yeah, just the day before I went in, and it popped the coolant level, the warning message on the OBD on the OBC came up just as I reached home. So the very next morning, I opened up the bonnet, checked the oil level. Yeah, the coolant level was rather low, so switched the OBC test cycle on, and set it to test number 7 to keep a close eye on the temperature as I drove the car over to Shite's workshop. Okay, and yeah, can see the temperature was climbing. Okay, but what I did was, and this is thanks to my tips from my E39 group, I switched the heater on. So that helped actually, all right, when you switch the heater on, because then you're drawing heat from the engine bay. I noticed there was an immediate drop of 3 degrees on the temperature readout. So that really helped, and it helped keep the temperature stable just long enough for me to reach the workshop without overheating. Now, the one thing about the E39s, the E39 has a temperature gauge, but the thing about the temperature gauge is this: this engine's normal operating temperature is about 96 to 98 degrees Celsius, okay, on a good day. Sometimes it goes to 98 on a hot day, but yeah, generally the normal operating temperature should be about 96 to 98. But the temperature gauge, I read that it points middle. Okay, it does not move to the red zone until it hits 115 degrees Celsius. So if the temperature is between 75 to 115 degrees Celsius, the needle points dead straight. Yeah, so that was why I had to switch the OBC on to test 7, which shows the coolant temperature. Yeah, and monitored that the whole journey. So anyways, got the car in, and And so he did a few things. He changed, we did first he started off by doing a pressure test. Now a pressure test is when they pump coolant into the radiator at pressure to check if there were leaks. So previously when I did my, when I changed my water pump a few months ago, he did a pressure test and he found the source of that leak. So this time around, Shai did a pressure test again and could find no leaks. Yeah, so no pressure test, no leaks, so means none of the hose had any issues. Where's the coolant leaking from? So eventually, and the thing is that, right, during the pressure test, the pressure held. So there were no obvious avenues of leakages anywhere within the cooling system. But later on, he found that there were coolant marks at the side of the radiator housing. So it means that there's a minor crack, you know, along the side of the radiator, and so he changed the radiator for me. So the thing is that, right, there are a few grades of radiators in the market. The best is Behr. It's the Behr branded radiator, but apparently that radiator is getting rare in the market. So he picked up the next best thing, all right, which was a 400 ringgit OEM part, and he installed that. He also helped me change the bleeder screws. He also helped me check all the hoses, check the pulleys, the belts. The V belts were changed during my very first service of this car at Vern's, so that was clean. All right, water pump was changed by him earlier. All right, that was sorted out. Yeah, so basically right now, this car, I have a almost fully, you know, refurbished cooling system. The expansion tank is still the same tank that I got with the car. It's just that the screw on the top is changed. All right, yeah, so he changed that, and he did another check. All right, and found that. So you see, one of the things that you do to check your cooling system is that in the morning, you know, a whole night after the engine has cooled down for one whole night, you open the expansion tank cap, and you see whether it's coolant gushing out from there. Okay, because when the coolant's gushing out, it means that there is pressure building up inside the radiator, inside the cooling system. Okay, and that is a very serious thing, because that points to the possibility of head gasket failure, and that requires you to do a top overhaul. And Shai actually pointed out that if I were to do a top overhaul, it may actually be cheaper just to change the engine throws. Yeah, scared the shit out of me. But so he did that change. He did the new radiator in, right? And then he did that test. So the next morning, he changed the radiator, he ran the car, and then he did the radiator test. So he opened up the cap, coolant was gushing out. Yeah, so there was pressure building up in there somewhere, and he also ran the engine, let the engine idle, and apparently within half an hour, the temperature was already climbing. So there was still something wrong inside there somewhere. And I gave him the green light. Shai, if you have to, just open up the head and see what's wrong in there. Okay, if you absolutely have to. But our friend is a very resourceful guy, so he said it could be the replacement radiator that's not up to spec. So what he did was, so he bought me that 400 ringgit radiator, right? So he took that out. He went to a chop shop. He sourced a second-hand used radiator, okay, that was working but not in the best of shape. So he installed that used radiator into my car, and he saw that the car was running normally, idled for 2 hours, no temperature increase. So that alone, that test confirmed that it was a problem with the radiator rather than anything else. So he actually had to go through a few suppliers, and finally he got me a Behr radiator for 700 ringgit. So got that in. All right, and along the way he also helped me clean up the various a few hoses. He also cleaned up my idling valve. He also cleaned up, what was it, he also helped me change my oil separator and oil separator o-ring. One major thing that was changed, and it's something that I have been anticipating for some time, the DISA valve. Yep. So you see, with all BMW 110 engines, the DISA valve is a very well known wear and tear part, all right, that is engineered to last about 100 to 150,000 kilometers. And now my car that day when I went for that service is 152,000. Now went to Singapore, came back, became 153,000. So memang it's about time to change one the DISA valve. So every time when I send my car in for service, I've always asked Shai, hey Shai, keep an eye on my DISA valve. So this time around, he opened up the DISA valve and he took it out. And you know the DISA, so what does the DISA valve do? The DISA valve is basically a flap at the engine air intake system that is supposed to vary the length of the intake manifold. It's basically like the Chemlube IFM system. Yeah, so it changes the path of air intake into the engine. So yeah, either long or short. Okay, so it is like a butterfly valve flap. Okay, and it's spring loaded. So so the thing moves, and there's also a vacuum suction to hold the flap in place. All right, when it turns. All right, when it closes, I think, yeah, when it's closed, there's a vacuum to hold it there. A common prescribed DIY test of the DISA valve's condition is that you flick the DISA valve into a closed position, hold the vacuum hole, and see whether it stays there or not. Well, my DISA valve was soft like jelly lah, basically. So that got changed. But you see, the one thing, so when your DISA valve fails, right, the telltale signs, which were not immediately obvious in this car, was that you would experience a loss of power, you will experience an increase in fuel consumption, which because I'm such a recent owner of this car, I have no previous frame of reference. So yeah, so I was unable to judge the the difference in power level and fuel efficiency because I don't have a previous experience to tell. Okay, and also there's supposed to be some rattling noise from the valve, which the few times that I did check, I couldn't hear the valve rattling. So it perhaps is not at that serious a level yet. But one scary thing about the DISA valve is that it is held, the flap is held in place by a plastic pin. That plastic pin is prone to degradation, and it can disintegrate, and parts of it that disintegrate can be sucked into the engine bay. Yeah, so catastrophic failure. And that is why the DISA valve, if you buy any of this M52 or M52 TU, all right, of these 6-cylinder, all these double one-notch engines, be sure to have your DISA valve, be sure to continuously monitor the condition of your DISA valve. If you can afford it, change it immediately as soon as you get your car. Okay, so yeah, but it's not cheap. All right, you can get knockoffs for what, 400 to 600 ringgit in the market, but I went for an original DISA valve. Brace for it, it's 1k. Yeah, 1,000 ringgit for the DISA valve. So not cheap, but well, it gives me at least that part of it. I've got peace of mind for the next 100,000 kilometers at least. Alright guys, so here's the engine bay of my E39, and let's talk about the cooling system first. Alright, so one way to check, alright, the health of your cooling system is that you must leave the engine, alright, overnight, and you open this expansion cap, So if coolant is not gushing out of the expansion cap as you open this, then it's fine. All right, so if this thing is popping up, it means that your coolant level is normal. All right, and so that's settled. Got a new radiator here. Here is the DISA valve, the new DISA valve. You see with the Bavarian auto sticker here, right? Brand new, original, 1,000 ringgit. This new radiator, 700 bucks. Okay, yep, and yeah. So here's a little additional add-on, a heat shield. All right, to protect the ABS and ESC module here. All right, so this is from my experience with the Waja over there. Heat in the engine bay, right, has the habit of accelerating the deterioration of your electronics, such as these modules. So what I've done is this is a common DIY fix amongst E39 owners, but I've gotten Shai to do it for me. Added an additional heat shield. This is one of those original BMW heat shields that was scavenged from other parts of the car. Well, this is taken from another half cut car, right? So just put here to give extra heat shielding to the ABS ESC module. So you see, the thing is about the M54 engine is this. Compared to the older M52 engines, right, the M54's catalytic converter is located nearer to the engine bay. So as a result, right, the engine bay temperature is typically higher in the M54 engine compared to the M52. So if you notice, M52 engines, E39 models with the M52 engine, right, they don't have this piece of heat shield here as well. So this piece of heat shield already came with the car. This was added on, all right, recently at Shai's place. Okay, so yeah, just that little bit of info. And yeah, so okay, so overall, this is it. Thus far, to recap what has been fixed since I got the car. Got new DISA valve, new radiator, new water pump inside, changed the valve cover gasket, changed the ignition coils, changed the spark plug. I've already done 2 oil changes. So yeah, this engine is getting healthier and healthier.